Hello Whovians and welcome to the third channel. Hooray! I'm back after the last video, which is questionable. But today I'm doing another wonderful interview. Now you might notice a few things different in my frame. One, I've got a new chair. It's a very nice gaming chair with a little footrest. Don't know why. Wouldn't want to rest my feet whilst I'm filming a YouTube video. And the other thing is, obviously, the microphone still doesn't work, even though I update the computer. Apple want to waste more money out of me. Not this time. But today, I'm doing a wonderful interview. An interview that will surprise a lot of you. Now, this person is best known for playing Rona in the 90s BBC sitcom 2.4 Children, which is a fantastic program that is coming to BritBox. So get excited, get your feet in the excitement seat. Disco Fever. It's the one, it's the only Julia Hill.
Hello.
Hello. Now, I mentioned there that 2.4 Children's coming to BritBox. Are you excited?
I'm excited. Well, I'm thrilled that it's coming. I'm thrilled that the sort of long-standing campaign that the fans have waged has actually sort of brought forth a result, and there's going to be some streaming of all the series, I think, and all the Christmas specials, if I'm right. Yes,
that is correct.
Yeah.
There is a Facebook group out there that's called Campaign to Get 2.4 Children on streaming or DVD.
Yeah.
So it's
well done them.
Yeah. Way. Yes, it was. I was gobsmacked the whole day when I read that. But we'll start right back to the beginning and we'll come back to 2.4 Children. How did your acting career begin? Where did it start?
Right. Well, I guess I went to university, and I was at Bristol University doing English and drama, and I was getting involved in doing shows and stuff. I'd always done it, even as a child. My parents were enthusiastic amateur actors, and the university used to take up a company every summer to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and so it would be a combination of the Bristol Orbit Theatre School and Bristol University students. So I signed up for that 3 years running, and in our middle year in 1977, we had an extraordinary sort of stroke of luck, really, and that we were playing at the Heriot Watt, and it was opposite the one of the grand theatres in Edinburgh, which had just had a complete refurb. And they had a grand opening with every sort of national newspaper critic invited. And sadly for them, they had a power cut. And we were doing a sort of a gawky premiere play over in the Heriot Watt. And a lot of the reviewers came over and reviewed our play instead. And we got a lot of attention. And I don't know whether that then fed into the review, got some attention. I met up with various people because, you know, students mix, like Rowan Atkinson and Jimmy Mulville and people like that. And then some of us got invited to possibly do a TV series for the BBC that next year. But in those days, you used to have major strikes when everybody down tools, and there was a big strike at the BBC, so that never happened. But there was an introduction that summer. I'd say that summer was quite vital in introducing me to quite a lot of people who then became quite significant in my future career. And it sort of set me on the path to thinking, well, maybe I could have a crack at this. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what I did after I graduated. I started writing loads of letters and doing all the stuff that I needed to do to get an equity card, because in those days you had to have an equity card to be a professional, and ended up getting a job in a pantomime and blah, 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 and started acting.
Yeah. Well, that power cut really helped then. And so as a child, what inspired you to do this? Like, did any programs make you think, oh, I want to become an actor?
No, I don't think I ever thought it was possible for me to do something like that. I don't think it was ever going to be a reality. As I said, I did it for fun and I did it as an amateur, but it took a while, and it took things like getting success and, you know, success inverted commas, but, you know, being noticed, we had these national reviews for this play that we were doing as a bunch of students, and you sort of thought, well, that kind of started to give me encouragement and confidence, I think, to think, well, maybe I could have a go as well, because nobody in my family did professional acting or anything like that. And so it was, yeah, I wasn't born into a sort of family that had contacts or any sort of experience of that, but it was, yeah, my confidence grew, and with that, my foolhardiness in having a bash.
And if any young, I say young, but any actors that want to become actors, what advice would you give people who want to become actors?
Well, these days, you see, it was very, oh, you know, when you get old people on, they go, oh, it was different in my day, but it was different in my day, because A, you needed to, you needed to get an equity card, and B, because of that, because it was a closed shop union, you couldn't be an actor without being a member of the union, and to be a member of the union you had to jump through these hoops to either sort of prove that you'd got a job, prove you were employable, have so many gigs to your blah blah blah, and so once you were in, you found that you were in a pool of not that many professional actors, and a huge amount of work was available in those days, because you had rep theatres in every town putting on loads of plays, you had funded theatre, you had television companies everywhere producing masses of material. You had drama departments in Central and Yorkshire, and you know, you name it. Obviously the BBC were producing masses, comedy programs, this, that and the other. And so it was all before everything got, all the money got cut, and they started having to cut themselves down into independence. So yeah, the whole situation has changed from having not many actors, loads of work, to loads of actors, not much work. That's the situation now.
Now jumping forward, how did you get involved in 2.4 Children? Where did that all begin for you?
Well, I think Andrew Marshall, who wrote it, he knew my work, which was nice. I did a series called Who Dares Wins for Channel 4. It was Channel 4's first comedy program, so that was in the sort of late 80s. And I think Andrew had been watching that, maybe was a bit of a fan of the program, and I was the only girl in the show, because in those days, again, you used to have the way comedy was sort of set out, certainly with sketch shows, was you had a bunch of boys who were incredibly clever at performing and writing usually, and a girl. And this sort of came out of the old review structure of, you had a bunch of boys who were incredibly clever at performing and writing, and a girl who could sing. I mean, I was invited, which was an honor, to go and join Rowan Atkinson's show at one point. I think that was when I was still at university, and we nearly did the TV thing, which he was also involved in, because it was a one-man show, really. He needed a time sometimes to go and get changed into another costume. So you had to have somebody come on and do something entertaining while he was busy getting into his next act. So yeah, I think that was sort of the pattern with comedy. Girls were hopefully a bit decorative, could sing, could also be funny. That was a help. And that was sort of how I started doing comedy in sketch shows. And then I was off doing drama and theatre as well. But I think Andrew had seen me, as I say, I think in Who Dares Wins. I'm guessing that. I don't think I've ever actually asked him, but yeah.
Yeah. And out of the whole of the programme, which series would you say was your favourite to work on?
I don't know. I think I have favourite moments. I used to love doing all the Christmas specials, because they had the musical number, and which was always very exciting, recording that, because we'd have all these wonderful costumes, and we actually used to record this. You know, we actually did sing the songs, because everybody in the cast could sing a bit, and they were always hilarious. And then, I mean, it's all to do with dressing up, isn't it? I also loved the episode where Belinda and I dressed up in Shirley Bassey's costumes, and again was sort of lip syncing along to Shirley Bassey. So it was kind of, it was a drag queen's, you know, dream. And what else? I mean, it was all fun to do. It was a great series. It was so well written, so funny. I mean, and we only really made 6 a year, which when you kind of compare it to the American series like Cheers and such, like when they put out hundreds of episodes because they have teams of writers. But because Andrew was so in control of all the writing and was an executive producer, and it was his baby really. So it was sort of these little gems of a short series every year, but they were all classics. All the episodes felt like little classics, really.
Yeah. And now since I've been doing these interviews, I've always asked the one question, because it's like a really interesting answer, but have you ever, or would you ever watch yourself back on TV?
I have watched myself back. I don't like doing it. I don't think I used to watch it when it went out, like 2.4. I found it difficult, but I found it more difficult with Who Dares Wins because it was going out as live. We used to record it on a Friday and it would go out on a Saturday because Channel 4 wanted to check whether there was any litigation pending, whether we'd said anything too shocking or too potential for being sued. So I don't know if I found that easier or harder, but I don't know. I don't like watching myself because you're never as good as you think you are when you're doing it.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that's indifferent. Sometimes I watch myself back because I feel like I just want to watch it because I want to see if it's all right. And sometimes I just think you can hear me more than anything else. In a room where you're in a crowded room, you just hear me over anything else. And not only did you do comedy, you've also done a variety of soaps. But what's the difference between working on a soap to working on a comedy?
Well, as every sort of job's different. A soap, I've done recently, well, 2018, I did some episodes of EastEnders, and I hadn't really done a proper soap. If I say proper soap, I've still to fulfill my ambition of being on Coronation Street as well. But I hadn't realised quite how hard they have to work. I think was how intense it is, how the organisation was mind blowing. The people who are keeping the whole thing going and up in the offices and get it and all this, planning the scripts, getting the scripts out to the right. It's a huge operation, and it probably doesn't seem to be when you watch it back. It's just sort of a little episode of whatever. But no, full of admiration for anybody involved in any kind of soap opera. And comedy is different. I mean, every comedy is different. If you're doing something like 2.4 Children, we were, well, in those days, again, I'm sure it's different now because they don't have the same kind of funds to fund comedy, and a lot of it is done filmed or on location, or whereas I think 2.4 Children was one of the last big studio based comedies, which the BBC were famous for. I mean, ITV did them as well. Everybody did them in those days. And you rehearsed in the week, and with each episode for each week. And then on a Sunday, we'd go in and we'd spend the day in the studio with the cameras and all the technicians, and we would rehearse and get the whole thing together. Oh, this is before, sorry, going back, before we even started rehearsals for the studio, we'd have gone out and done some filming. So we had a location shoot of the bits that were then dropped in, and then we'd do rehearsals, and then we'd do each week, Sunday in the studio, and in the evening an audience would come in and there'd be a warm-up person getting them all having a good time, and we come out and chat to people and what have you, and then we'd perform scenes and they'd drop the films bits in, and the audience would sit and hopefully enjoy it and laugh a lot, and they would be recorded in the studio on that day, and that would be how it would go out later when it was put on telly.
So how many takes did you have to do? Because obviously with production there's going to be about someone forgetting a line or someone messing up. So how many takes did it take to film an episode?
Well, you didn't actually get that many retakes because we had rehearsed it, so it was pretty, it was reasonably tight by the time we got it into the studio, because you didn't want to be thinking about lines and stuff, because you had to be thinking more technically in the studio about which cam you were on and coming through the door and not knocking the set over and stuff like that, basic. So it was sort of I don't remember. I mean, obviously things did go wrong occasionally. Someone would fluff or someone would fall over or whatever, and the audience loved that. So it'd be quite nice if something went wrong occasionally, but obviously if it went wrong all the time, the audience would get really bored and fed up and stop laughing. So you needed a good balance.
Yeah. And now moving away from 2.4 Children for a little bit, but so you not only did you work on soaps and comedy, and now I wouldn't know what you would call it, but I think you would call it a medical drama, I think. But what's the difference between working on Casualty and Holby City, because they're in the same universe?
I've never done Holby City, so I wouldn't be able to compare, but
your IMDb says you have done.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we might want to have a word with whoever made that.
Can't believe everything you read on IMDb.
No.
Casualty, I've done Casualty a few times. Maybe they've got confused because I've done more than one character on Casualty. Anyway, it's well, again, I don't know now, but because it's made in. Oh, actually, I have done it since it moved to Cardiff. So what am I talking about? But I did a few when it was in Bristol. I mean, it's more like working on one of the soaps, but it's I don't know, there's more time, I guess. They don't have to put them out as quickly, so there's a bit more time to rehearse, and it's very difficult to. Every job as an actor is different. Every theatre job, yes, they all involve walking onto a stage and talking in front of an audience, but they're all different. They've all kind of got very different scripts, very different what you need to be doing. Some are musicals, some you've got an orchestra, some you haven't. You've got a click track. You've got, that's kind of the fun of being an actor, is that it's a constant, you're constantly renewing your toolbox, and you're constantly having to kind of come up against new experiences and try out new skills.
Now, looking forward to the future, hopefully would be brighter than today, because it's currently raining or snowing. It's the same noise to me. But what's your future goals for the future in acting?
Acting? My future goals, well, they're not really in my control. I would like to do I'd like to work at the National Theatre, actually. I've never done anything at the National Theatre, so that would be, I've been at the RSC, but that's on my list. And I just, no, to be honest, I'd like to be doing interesting scripts, whether it's comedy or television or theatre or whatever. If it's an interesting character and interesting scripts, then that would be fab.
Yeah.
Can you arrange
that? Well, I have contacts, but not very
excellent news.
Yeah. And so with 2.4 Children being as popular as it is, so popular enough, it got its own podcast, which I was a guest on. Wasn't a very good guest, because it's my first ever guest appearance on a podcast, so wasn't sure how to react. But when you filmed the intros, what was that like to film? Because that just looked so much fun from the intro title sequences.
The intros of what, sorry?
Of 2.4 Children.
What, you mean the
one where like you be like skipping in, the one where it brings the title sequence of the words 2.4 Children.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, all of it was fun. Yeah, all of it was fun. Yeah. It was a great bunch of people. I knew Belinda a bit before. We'd worked together before we did the series. So we were sort of mates, and Gary was just a huge joy and a laugh to work with, and it was I was very lucky to have had that experience and to have had that job, because it gave in so many ways, and really, I was very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, and because of it popularity, were you recognised a lot when you're walking in the streets doing your daily shopping?
If I was, people don't usually sort of, they don't usually butt in or say anything. I mean, I think it was more at like we moved house at one point, and I took my children, to a different primary school, and nobody said anything. But then as I got to know people were saying, oh, well, people were going, oh, I think she's off the deli and what have you. And so people are always very sort of discreet and polite about it, or they usually, certainly if they're going to be in a position where they're going to get to know you. Yeah. I mean, I haven't had that much of, wait, you're wrong, not whoa, that going on. Maybe that's just, I don't know. I wouldn't now, because they wouldn't recognize me from it. But and also people, the ways now haven't ever watched it, so
yeah. Well, I mean, it would get annoying if someone does keep on saying, "Well, hey."
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like that since Gold, which is a fantastic channel, since Gold's inception, I think they've made the series more popular, and a lot of like old comedies like My Hero, Green Grass, and other comedies that don't get much airing have now been aired more often. And do you reckon there'll be more younger fans of 2.4 Children now that Gold are re-airing the series?
Well, I hope so, because I think it stands the test of time. I think it stands with a lot of the other comedies of the 80s that have had more publicity and attention. I mean, I know that the fans of 2.4 Children are incredible and are so loyal, and speak of how much they love the show, and they have loved the show. I always am a little puzzled that we have well, the BBC hasn't repeated it much. I don't know, but it's sort of, and I don't remember us having a lot of BBC publicity insofar as being put up for awards or fronts of Radio Times and stuff like that. So I don't know whether we would sort of always the sleeper series that they kept making because people really loved it and people kept watching it. But those programs that have the comedies of the 80s or whatever, 2.4 Children is often missing from that sort of thing, those kind of compilations, and I don't know why. I'll leave that question out there.
Well, I feel like when they do compilations of like the best sitcoms of what insert decade here, they're always like 2 hours or 3 hours. So I just feel like they spend too much time talking about one sitcom, like for instance, Only Fools and Horses, that talks about forever. But I feel like 2.4 Children's one of those where, because of it not having any airing anywhere else, like DVDs and VHSs, and I was going to say cassettes, but that was on a video format, and streaming, it meant that it, like, when it was on TV, the fans went nuts and went wild and and everyone was excited, and so because of how popular it was and because it wasn't available anywhere else, I've got a load of it saved in my recordings on my Sky so that I can always watch it and never lose it because it's precious. But so if you ever would you ever do a Friends style reunion when it reaches 40 years?
Well, I would, but the problem is we don't have Gary, isn't it? That's the problem. Yeah. That's the sad truth of it, is that you can't really, you couldn't remake an episode. You couldn't come back and do as everybody at the ages we are now, because there'd be this massive hole in the middle, wouldn't there? Which is very sad. Yeah.
But because of what Gold does, you could do like a semi reunion, because Gold did a program called Dinner Ladies Diaries where the ones that were left talked about it and had Victoria Wood's voice on a record, because
okay,
was awesome. So you could do something like that where you like talk about it and then show clips and bits and whatever. But if there was ever a US remake, who would you see playing your character?
Oh gosh. Zoe Chanel or something. Is that how you pronounce her name? The is it
Sure. I'm the worst.
from oh, I can't even think of the name of the series that she's anyway. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. It would have to be somebody who's like in a late 20s, 30ish now, wouldn't it? So yeah, it's Zooey Deschanel. I'm sure, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but she's,
That might be right. I've never heard.
I'm plumping for that.
Yeah, we'll go with it. We'll
Go with that. If anyone has any better suggestions, please write in.
Yeah,
thank you.
Do tell. But would you ever see a US remake happening now that it's been so many years since it finished?
I don't know, because what we were talking about with Friends earlier, the system in America is very different. I mean, it's different in Great Britain now, because the BBC is not funding masses of money into big comedies that are made in big studios. They're not made like that anymore. It's too expensive. So it's of its time, I think. Yeah. To remake it, I don't know if it would work. It would be a very different animal. So no. So yeah, short answer, no.
Yeah, because this year, in a sense, this decade and towards the end of last decade, there was a lot of reboots of old programs, and then there's always revivals. Like, I just feel like that's one of those programs where if it ever does happen, no one should watch it, because it won't be as good as the originals. Then it doesn't happen again, because I feel like you can't beat the original and stuff. It's like Wurzel Gummidge. I can't stand the new one because the original is better. And whenever I think about the new one, but it's just like a nightmare. Even though Mackenzie Crook's in it, it's still a nightmare. It's like you wake up cold sweats thinking about it.
I suppose these new ones, it's for a new generation, isn't it, to discover it for themselves. And yeah, because they brought out the Larkins, haven't they? That's another new one. But it's very, I think it's doing very well. I think it's very popular.
Yeah, it's like All Creatures Great and Small on Channel 5. That popular. But, yeah. Oh, it's awful.
Okay. Say what you think.
Yeah. I have very strong opinions. I'm doing the right thing to get them out there. But with it coming on to BritBox, I feel like it means that it'll open it. It's like British Empire. That's on BritBox now, and that's one of those that never went anywhere. We went on DVD, but it didn't really have a popularity track. And I think it might become more popular. So I feel like the result of it, you might end up getting recognised a lot more, because there'll be small like babies running around thinking, "Oh, there you are."
I'd love it. I'd love it if the program, if the series gets recognised more. I think that would be fantastic, because I do think it was a classic, and it's never really been in that pantheon of classics. And so I think if it got recognised as good as it was at its time, and as popular as it, the huge audiences, the 15 million or what, that we would get. I know that was when there were fewer channels and blah blah blah, but still it was very popular, and it was presumably in that way a water cooler show, where people talked about it the next day. So I'd love that to be recognized and acknowledged, for Andrew's sake more than anything, because I think it is a work of genius, and he's not necessarily had the recognition for that.
It's what the modern kids, I'll say that in inverted commas, the modern kids are calling a hidden gem, is what
good.
Now call it.
Let's get it out there, take away the hiding, and expose it for what it is.
It'll be the program that it'll be eventually, if it becomes so popular, they'll stop showing Friends on Comedy Central and they'll start showing 2.4 Children 24/7.
Well, do you think they've actually discovered that everybody has seen every single episode? No, I haven't. Friends.
Well, I mean, instead of early morning on Channel 4, will end up buying the rights somehow. So instead of showing Raymond every morning, they'll be showing 2.4 children every morning. That would just be the dream where you can only find 2.4 children on every channel.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your dream, and I hope that some of it comes true.
It's very expensive. There'll be a lot of expenses. So they have to pay the BBC for the license, and they have to pay them again for even more money. So it'd be very expensive. So with 2.4 children, how did you get into the character of Rona? What did you do to prepare yourself?
I read the script. No, I think again, credit to Andrew, is that once he'd got the team of people that he wanted for the cast, he then started his writing and one's personality, or way of performing, or whatever, they started to sort of merge. Because when I did the pilot episode, in fact, no, it wasn't. It was when I read for the part, when I went in and auditioned, and the part as written, I thought, well, there's absolutely no point in me even going up for this, because it's clearly she's got to be blonde. I mean, not that was written, but it was just the way she came over. She was a sexy blonde. I mean, that's how she was. She seemed to me in the script. Yeah. Possibly, a bit Barbara Windsor, a bit bosomy, blah blah blah. That sort of character, to play that sort of, that was her. Andrew may argue and say I've remembered it wrong, but that's how I felt the part was. So I had very short hair at the time. I was brunette. I just thought, well, I'm going to just go in and do my stuff. And I've got so little chance of getting this part. There's no point in trying to be something I'm not. Yeah. And luckily, as I said, because I think he knew some of my work anyway, no one was more surprised than I was when I got offered the job. I must say, I was completely gobsmacked.
Yeah.
But and then sort of Rona started to develop out of this, character who was the sexy one and was just mad for men and interested in men. I mean, that was sort of in the first series a bit, but then if you look back over the series, she develops. She sort of becomes obsessed with having a baby. Then she just becomes a bit weird most of the time, a bit sort of different and eccentric, which was fantastic fun to play. And I think because Andrew was responding to me, and I was responding to Andrew, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. And I feel like the program is fantastic, and if you've not seen it, well, how did you get here then? If you've not seen it, I don't know how you got to this place without seeing the show. If you've not seen it, I'm disappointed.
But you can now, because it's on BritBox from the 16th of December.
Well, hey! And I obviously will be rewatching it, because then the numbers, I don't know if they've got a system. I've seen what program is popular, so the numbers go up. I'll rewatch it like every day for 3 years, so the numbers go up. Because last year they added the Christmas specials, and then they added them again this year. So all the Christmas specials are currently airing now. I can't remember which one, because there was quite a few, but the one where they went on the cruise ship, was that an actual ship?
Yeah.
Or that just a prop?
No, I mean, looking back, probably the idea to, I guess there was some financial arrangement, because we were sort of advertising these ships. I don't think it was its maiden voyage, but it was a new, on the Cunard line, the Oriana. It was a brand new, one of their super duper new ships. And so how the BBC got, how we came to be on that ship, I'm not sure, but we were so yeah, we actually cruised down from Britain to down to past France and over to Greece, and then flew back to start rehearsals for the rest of the series. If I think it was, anyway, I can't remember, but because we were most of the story, if you remember, took place in a cabin.
Yeah.
So you got some lovely shots of this beautiful ship, and I guess that's probably what they were looking for, was a bit of an advert of their fantastic facilities, etc. But the story was actually about them holed up in this cabin, which of course, and as we went further and further down towards the Mediterranean, it got hotter and hotter in this cabin, because you had camera people and costume people and lighting people, and they were all scrammed into this cabin with the actors, and so it wasn't the most comfortable of shoots, although you would think, how much luxury on the Ariana for a whole week or whatever it was. But yeah, looking back, they probably would have preferred to have been doing it in a studio set where they could get the cameras in through the walls and things, and yeah, but it was quite an experience. And I just had a baby not long beforehand, so she had to come with me. She's the youngest baby ever to travel on a P&O. Oh, it wasn't Q&O, P&O cruise ship, because they had to give her special permission to come. Wow. And I brought my mother-in-law to look after her, because she thought, fantastic, I've got a week's holiday booked. But of course, yeah, my baby was not one who liked sleeping, even with the rocking of the boat, sadly. And so my mother-in-law did a lot of walking the decks. But hey, she enjoyed coming down to the captain's table in the evening. Yeah.
Well, that's the glamorous life of an actor. You get the opportunity to be in a boat, but then you're trapped in one room.
Trapped in a cupboard, yeah.
So many hours. How many hours was it filming in this cabin?
Oh, I can't remember, but it was most of the time of the the daylight hours of that we were on that cruise were mostly spent in that cabin.
Well, it's got. I think it's got to be I think it's one of the best episodes out of the selection of Christmas specials. I think it's one of the best, because it's the most extravagant, and it's like they're removing it from its classic home setting.
Yeah, it was certainly different.
Yeah, and with there's I can't remember which exact series. I mean, I should remember, but my memory is awful. I watch too much TV. What was it when they got the pink? I think the Thunderbird car. Was that an actual Thunderbird car, or was that a replica?
No, well, it wasn't a Thunder, it was a Cadillac.
Oh yeah.
Was it pink or blue?
Oh, it was a pink one, because he wanted the FAB. He wanted the Thunderbird.
Oh, that's a different. Okay, right.
Yeah, that's what I'm on about.
That one. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if I was got to drive. Did I ever get a drive in it? I don't know. Don't remember.
Well,
sorry.
Well, I mean, it looked very expensive. This car, so they must have
hired it from
from someone.
Props hire place.
Yeah. Now, if people wanted to go out and like they do with Gavin and Stacey, with all those programs, whereabouts is the street in Britain? Where is the street that all the outdoor shots were filmed? Where's that?
Chiswick.
Right.
Chiswick. But there were two different streets, because we used one for most of the series, and then I think the residents just got a bit fed up of every summer these big lorries and vans, and it was a residential street, and there was a school at the end of it, so you'd have pickup time as well, morning and afternoon of cars come in and pick. And I think just logistically they got a bit upset, or I don't know what happened, but we then moved to a different street which had a similar sort of front housing.
Yeah.
But I think they always used that street for like the title sequence and stuff. It was always the original.
Yeah. Well, there you go, guys. You can now go and visit and take those selfies outside the windows and say, "Oh, look where I am," like you do with Cameron and Stacey. But the people have actually added photos of the house and the program, so it's become a little bit too commercialized.
Well, I don't know. You see, it's a long time ago now when we were doing. It probably looks very different.
It probably does, because it was quite a while ago, but it's still a fantastic program. Now, with 2.4 children being as it is, do you know what the 2 and the 4 stand for? Is that for the kids? Are the kids of 4 and the parents of 2? Where does
no, it was actually a statistic at the time that if the average family in Britain back in those days, I mean, late 1980s, I suppose. The number of children average in a family was 2.4.
Wow, that's something I did not know. I
So
know so much rubbish, and I didn't know. No,
it was Andrew's tribute to the completely. Of course, it wasn't the average family. I mean, that was the joke, but it was, the completely average British family.
Wow, if they were making a show like that now using a statistic, it'd probably be a lot different now, because there's a woman that's got 22 kids and she gets a Channel 5 series every time she has another kids.
Well, that's one way to keep in work, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
yeah, just
hard work.
yeah, churn out the kids. The more money you get, the more kids you get. But
I don't know what the current statistic is.
Oh no, it's probably a lot higher.
I don't know. Lots of people are not having children now. It's all very different times. Different time.
But I feel like 2.4 Children's one of those sitcoms that ages really well as time goes on. Like, so you watch, like, for instance, can't even think, Bottom or Green Grass, and they don't age as well. But 2.4 Children still, if you've never seen it before, you can still watch it and still understand everything and still feel like it's still relatable to what the modern relatability class is like, because you've still got your tropes of the characters still being in the British public. And do you reckon if this series ever got sold to America, do you reckon it would have been as popular in the States, or do you reckon it's just a British niche program?
I think it's a bit like they did that with the Alf Garnett, what's it called?
Deathers do.
Thank you. Yeah, didn't they do a version in America with which was quite different? I mean, it was a working class family and
American.
But it inevitably is different because it's a very different culture and sort of, as you say, the stereotypes are different, etc., etc. I don't know how popular that one was, but I think with 2.4 Children, it was so. I mean, that's why I was saying I don't know if you could do a reunion without Gary. It was so much a product of that small group of that cast and Andrew as the sort of writer creator. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't do another version with other people, but it would be different. It would be different. And I think it was a sort of a magical combination chemistry that Andrew and the producer Richard Bowden had managed to get together, that just worked really well.
Now, to slowly come to a climax of this fantastic interview, hoping that IMDb did something correctly. What was it like working on the daytime soap Doctors?
Oh, I've done that quite recently. Yes, I've done it before, but my most recent bit of television work is an episode of Doctors that's going out on the 24th of January. What's it like? Well, again, they make it. Hats off to them, because they are making stuff fast, and because to do that they have to be incredibly efficient, but also incredibly nice and friendly and get on with each other and just do their job really well, which they do. Got there and they were so great. It was just lovely. I really enjoyed it. Good fun.
Yeah, and would you recommend Doctors to the lovely viewers out there?
What, to go and watch my episode on 24th of January?
Yeah.
Definitely. Not just because of me. No. But I am playing a slightly weird woman, as usual.
Yeah. Hey. Well, I recommend you go and watch Doctors, because it's one of those programs that will benefit if they move it to evenings, because it is a good program. I once watched it because I thought it was Doctor Who, because I read it and I thought, oh, I wonder which Doctor it is.
A lot of Doctors.
Yeah,
they keep rejuvenating in different every scene.
I wasn't the smartest tool in the shed when I was a little bit younger, but, well, as I say smartest tool in the shed, I really mean I probably didn't look at it properly. We were about to leave the house as well, So I said, hang on, I'm watching this. And then they'd find out it's doctors, and then we'll, oh, right, I probably read that wrong.
I love that story. That's great.
I got one more extra viewer out of my misfortune. And so now we draw this interview to a close. Now, this is your time to promote whatever you want to promote. You can promote anything that you're working on or in the middle of working with, or whatever is happening.
I've just shamelessly done that, haven't I? My most recent appearance.
But you can do it again if you like.
No, that's fine. Thank you. But
and so with that, we end it here. So if viewers, please stop crying. Stop crying. You can watch it from the beginning again if you like. I don't want to see anyone crying because this interview is coming to an end. Because I don't want to make you cry. Really, it looks a bit odd if you're crying over an interview on a YouTube channel. Weird. You might want to get your life sorted. But anyway, thank you for coming on and let me interview you. It was a pleasure to interview you.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers, for watching. Now, if you want to see more from this face, you can watch my other 7 channels, if you like, because the 8th channel, Taskmaster World's uploading content from this channel to there, not removing the content from here because I want to keep viewers engaged on this channel and I don't want to delete content. But you can see me again shortly, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, but I upload twice a day on the main channel, so you will see me again. And remember, enjoy this, and remember to watch 2.4 Children on BritBox on the 16th of December, so that it becomes popular again, and that the BBC think, oh, we should release this on DVD so they can make even more money. I'll be happy to buy it 14 times if they want to release it all separately. But yes, thank you guys for watching and enjoy the disgusting weather. Or if you live in Lanzarote, enjoy the sunshine. Thank you guys for watching. I don't know why I said Lanzarote. Bye. Cheerio.